for and continue to learn with her. And with that said, you all have submitted some fantastic questions offline. So like I said before, I'm not going to waste any time. I just want to jump right into this first question here. And especially because, I mean, you know, we're in COVID now, and even before COVID, you know, there's always this, you know, people are, and especially women, are often reluctant to promote themselves and to speak about the beautiful work that they're doing. So I love that you are tackling this topic, and hopefully, you know, some more people can get comfortable with promoting themselves. So let's jump into this first question here. Are there any classic PR pitfalls we should avoid? I'm thinking of time sucks or too many freebies, but I'm curious to know what I'm not considering.
Yeah, I think a big part of my approach to PR, and you know, PR is what I went to school for. I have a bachelor's degree in public relations. And what I have found is that there's corporate PR that, you know, big enterprise level companies do, and that kind of more old school traditional companies do. And it's the things that we all kind of tend to think about with PR, you know, trying to get newspaper mentions and things like that, where it's, you know, sending out press kits and press releases, and maybe those aren't, you know, it can take a lot of time to build those things up, to build up those journalist relationships and to get those newspaper mentions. And honestly, as small businesses, you know, particularly if you're a digital business, if you don't have a brick and mortar location, those newspaper mentions and things like that might not be as valuable to you as they would be to a much bigger company. And I really also think there's just a more modern way to do things now, a more, especially a more small business and a more digital business friendly way to do these things. So I think a lot of it's about finding, you got to really start first and foremost from thinking about who's my ideal client and where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? Are they reading a physical newspaper? Are they browsing like a local news website? Or are they listening to podcasts? Do they have like favorite podcasts that they listen to that are in some way relevant to your industry? Or are there other small businesses that are kind of adjacent to yours but don't do the same thing you do, that they follow and like and use? Because, you know, for me, a big part of PR is honestly centered around collaborating with other women business owners. And we can talk more about that. There's a lot that you can do with other business owners to promote both of your businesses. And I think, yeah, so it's just find ways that are realistic to get in front of your dream clients rather than, you know, trying to cast too wide of a net or go too old school with things.
I love that. And I would love for you to kind of chime in too on what is old school in the world of PR, because like even now you mentioned newspapers and you know, how many of us even on the call now, how do we get newspapers? But we automatically know what you mean, right? So okay. Like, how are we supposed to stay fluid with the language and, you know, keep up with the times? And especially since a lot of people are moving to, you know, doing work on the digital platform.
Yeah. So when I'm saying old school, you know, when I went to school for this, we learned how to write white papers, which I'm sure that's not really a common term, but it's just a big research document about your product. And we learned how to write standard press releases. And that's still something that I see a lot of the time in job descriptions, or even like clients will come to me and ask, I'm doing a launch for my product or for my new course, should I write a press release for this? And honestly, I don't think that's the best way to do things anymore. I think, you know, I don't remember the last time that I wrote a standard press release, and I've gotten mentions on the front page of the Seattle Times and in, you know, the Washington Post, no press releases. So I do those things through email. I reach out to journalists on Twitter. That's where a lot of them hang out. Just thinking, just trying to get away from, honestly, I think if you just don't trip yourself up too much worrying about what exactly is PR and just worry about where do my clients hang out, where do my dream clients hang out, and how do I get in front of them? How do they actually spend their time? And a lot of the time, I think you'll find if your clients are kind of in this demographic of, women ages, 20 to 35, 45, whatever, a lot of times they're not spending all their time reading the Washington Post. I mean, maybe they do, but it's not niche down enough to like get your small business audience. You want to be, I think a lot of people now do listen to podcasts, or they do watch their favorite YouTube channels, things like that, where you can, that they hang out, and you can try to get in front of them over there. So yeah, I think I wouldn't get too tripped up on like, what's the old way of doing things. I would just worry about, where do my dream clients hang out right now? And if you're not sure about that, that's just a place to do some market research, send like a little survey to them, ask them what they, where they consume most of their media, ask them what their favorite podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that are. Ask them what websites they read the most, and then use that to kind of plan your PR strategy.
I love that. I love that. Keep it current. And
Yeah.
especially, I mean, I feel like, it's, you have like a golden key, the fact that you even studied PR, and so many people are expected to know how to kind of maneuver and navigate through the waters of social media that is putting it in the hands of everyone. So I'm super interested to find out, how you do it in such a sophisticated way, and also in order to get, start your own business. So let's dive into this next question here. And if you're on the call with us and this is your question that you see on the screen, feel free to chime in. If this is not your question and you had a dream last night and you want to bring something up, all of a sudden, feel free to do that as well. Okay, so I'm new to PR and I'm nervous about volunteering my time, skills, or product. How can you tell when it's worthwhile to use giveaways to drum up business? And how do you know when you're chasing a sunken cost fallacy? I love that question.
Well, I think it definitely depends a little bit on how new you are to PR. Like when I was straight out of school, I had to do several internships before I found a job. And that's what my advisors were telling me in college. They're like, if you want to do PR, you're not going to need, one internship isn't enough. You're going to need 3 or 4. And I think I ended up doing about 4 of them. So, only one of them was paid. And that's annoying, but I think like maybe that was in Kentucky. So maybe out here, especially, I think businesses are maybe a little bit more forward thinking, and a little bit more willing to pay their interns. So if you're brand new, I think that it's definitely worthwhile to do some internships. I still think it's worthwhile to learn how to do some of that more traditional PR stuff so that you can figure out how to apply it to kind of what's happening now and, where trends have gone. I still use my skills around how to write a traditional press release and like how to build a media list, how to reach out to journalists. I learned a lot, just learning those traditional things. And now I can apply them to, as we kind of advance and move more online and attention spans get shorter. So I think that's part of it. I also always recommend doing some volunteering. I volunteered with a couple of different nonprofits and helped them out a little bit. But you don't want to give too much away for free, just like long term. I think you might want to like really look at what you've done in the past and see if there's anything that sort of qualifies as PR that you can that shows that you have those skills that you could put in your portfolio. Definitely writing skills are a huge thing for PR. So even if it's not a press release that you wrote, if it's like you have a blog, you've written blog posts, you could still use those to kind of go after PR jobs, because that's the biggest skill in PR is writing. And you could also, one of the things I did when I started this business, and I didn't have any testimonials, I had a lot of work that was more for tech companies, and I worked for a museum. I've worked for several small business owners too, but I didn't have a lot of testimonials or anything for, what ended up being my dream soulmate clients. So I picked just a couple of people and I offered to do one small project for them. I wrote them a bio for their business. So it's a 1-page project and I did it in exchange for a testimonial. And that worked. I mean, it did really well. And now she tells other people about my services because she turned around the next day and booked a speaking engagement with it. So she was like, oh, I'm going to tell other people about this. And that's another really good way to do things without giving a lot away free, like a little, here's a taste of what I can do, help them with a little thing in exchange for a testimonial. So it's not just completely free. Yeah, and then I would not say just give away a full PR campaign or anything like that. That's a little too much.
I agree. I agree. And I love that you actually on the chat that I hosted a couple of days ago, we were talking about, you're being authentic and finding your passion and being true to that. And one of the things that Sharday in this chat mentioned was specifically about how volunteering and interning, if this is what you want to do, you can make it a highlight and not kind of like an ego trip, like, well, I have this many years in this industry and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And being an intern or volunteering means that somehow I'm not successful. But I think that's just you getting into your mind. So I love that, two rock star women are like, it's okay to intern and volunteer, do it in a smart way. And also, I love how you're seeing it as this kind of exchange for energy. Maybe it's not a like monetary exchange. So you did the bio, but you get you get something that's going to be beneficial for you as well. And I really hope, at least, in these crazy times, that we start to do more, exchanges that lift each other up. Obviously,
totally.
We need to be paid for our time and services, but if someone is new to the game or they want to brush their skills up, I love that you are helping us see it that way.
And on that note too, I'm in, and I could talk for a full hour about networking and how important it is. I'm in a ton of women's networking groups where it's women business owners, women in my industry, women small business owners, all that stuff, and local groups too, where people will trade, like they'll do a trade for their skills. So like maybe I need to do PR for someone, so I have a portfolio piece, and you can trade with someone who like does websites or like graphic design or something. So I think don't discount looking for things like that. And also, I just want people to know that if you need to do PR for your business in some way, don't get caught up thinking that you need to have gone to school for it. I happen to have a bachelor's degree in PR, but very few people do. And tons of people without that are successful in it. It's not required. You don't even need school in PR to get a full-time job in PR. A lot of people come in from other majors. So, all that you really need is to be willing to talk to people and maybe some writing skills. So I think that's important also.
Awesome. Great. All right. So let's move to this next question here. Again, I'm going to remind folks who are on the call with us because I want to hear from you. Feel free to write in the chat box or come off mute if you want to dive in deeper here. So everyone knows that exposure doesn't pay the bills when you're asked to give more value than you're getting. What are some better ways to tell someone no without burning a bridge or undercutting your value?
So this is a huge thing that I deal with a lot of the time. So the thing with PR is, and this is something that my professors told me in college, like when I first got into it, is that it's really hard to quantify the value of it. And I've seen this firsthand working, especially with tech companies, where usually I find the CEO of these tech companies is more like numbers driven. They just want to hear about what is the exact like dollar amount that this is going to bring into my business. which is fair. It's not how my brain works so much, but it's something that, leaders at your company want to know, well, what exactly is this going to do for me? How many dollars will it bring in? How many new followers will it get me on social media, etc.? So it's a big challenge for sure. And I think, let me make sure I understand the question correctly, because there are a couple ways to go about this. When I'm trying to, I feel like there's sort of two questions here, which is like, how do you explain the importance of visibility to a client or to your company? And what do you do when they ask you to like deliver more? Yeah, what do you do when they ask you to like get more than you're like currently getting visibility wise? Is that right?
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, for me, I hear about, when I read this, I think about boundaries, so that you're not
Yeah.
kind of, being taken advantage of for your
Oh
time or your
yeah.
effort, and then you're not
Yeah.
burning
Okay.
bridges to say no.
So I had a job, my first like big PR job, where I was the only PR person on the team. It was just me, and we had one marketing manager, and we were like our own little 2-person team. We had no real budget for PR. We had no tools. We had to do it all by hand, which is fine. And we got really good results that way. However, our CEO wanted us to get results on par with what our biggest enterprise level competitor was getting. And we were a tiny little startup. So, that enterprise level company has a huge team of PR people. They have millions of dollars to throw at it. They had all kinds of different experts making content for them. And so it's a whole different thing. And it's just not possible to start getting like front page mentions and TV spots and all of that stuff every single day. And that's what they wanted. Whereas we had to work really hard for hours and hours to get one high value mention. So, it's kind of, I've had to learn to not internalize that. Initially when I started dealing with pushback on that, I brought my CEO this, I had gotten the company on the front page of the Seattle Times. The first time they'd ever been in the Seattle Times, I got them on the front page above the fold. And I was so proud. It was my first accomplishment like that in PR. And he was like, awesome. Let's see if we could do that every week. And I was like, you don't understand how this works. But back then I kind of internalized it, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job. I'm not bringing in the value that they need from me. And it took me a while to realize, no, they're literally asked for results on par with what that huge competitor was getting. And it took me a while to realize, oh, they have so many more resources than I do. And, it's not possible. So what I do now that I have my own business is I manage expectations going in. I let them know exactly what I can do and exactly what we can expect from it. I don't tell them, hey, I'm going to get you on the front page of Google, like very first search result. I don't tell people I'm going to get you on these huge podcasts every single week. I tell them, hey, in your plan, we've included, I'm going to do outreach to get you visibility, to get you on podcasts. And I manage those expectations. I let them know, it might not be every single week, every single month, we're getting like tons of stuff, but we're going to be building long-term relationships. We're going to be getting you on high value podcasts and high value mentions. And that visibility will last. That link stays there, and they'll promote it to their audience and we'll promote it to ours. And that over time it builds trust. And I let them know things like, You know, I have people who come and find my business from, mentions from things that I did a long time ago, from, a podcast I went on a while back, or from, a chat like this that I did. So it's like that thing lives on. It's not just one little mention and it's gone forever and it's forgotten. So even though you can't trace it back to, what sales did I get from this, that value continues on and builds. Yeah, so I feel like I'm rambling now. This is like something that I'm passionate about, because I've had that happen a lot of times where people are like, what's the deal? What are we getting from this? And it's hard to explain, but the value is huge from this stuff, from getting people. People are better able to find you, and when they do, people buy from people. They don't buy from a business so much, especially small businesses. Like, they're interested in who you are. And the thing that makes them buy from you versus your competitor could really just be your personality a lot of the time. So if they're able to go like listen to you on a podcast or see you on a YouTube channel, like that could be the thing that makes a difference.
Sorry, I'm getting super excited and I just went to the next question, but I'm listening. And no, I feel your passion, and I love that I'm sorry that you internalized it. And I know that you're not alone, because it happens to the best of us. And these, as far as the rhythm of startups and small businesses, and that they are competing, unrealistically, maybe if you want to say, with these really big companies that do have huge teams, several of you doing the same thing or doing plenty of things. And then, you get this one win and there's no celebration of it. It's like, when's the next one? Is it next week? And it's, in my opinion, it's really unfair, but I mean, I guess that's what the demand of the business promotes. So I would piggyback on what you said and just make sure that, you protect yourself and you don't internalize it, and maybe even say, well, yeah, I can do it every week. We need 5 more people on the team. Can you give me that?
Yeah. And one other thing that I can easily rant about is do protect your boundaries. I know it seemed like some of the people who asked questions maybe also do PR for clients. So to them, I would want to say, protect your boundaries. If a client asks you to, to spend more time on PR, if they ask you for these crazy results that you'd need to spend double the time getting, you need to just tell them, that's not currently in our budget. Maybe offer to like add that to their plan. I had to do that just a couple of weeks ago. Like, we have this much time budgeted for PR. So, and also don't let anybody try to tell you that they will only pay you once you get results, or that they'll pay you based on the number of mentions you get. I don't know. Some people who do PR are cool with that, or content and all that. Some people are cool with that, but I feel like I want to get paid for the time that I spend working, because PR takes a lot of time up front. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody who does this, because I've gotten that a lot from other companies that I've worked with.
Yeah, set the record straight. I love it. And I'd love
Paid
to know
for your time.
Exactly. Time is money.
Oh yeah.
For our live callers, if you want to drop in the chat box where you are in your journey, so that we can dive in a little deeper on these questions, you can let us know if you've been in the game for a while or not, if you're looking to outsource, if wherever you are in your journey, let us know in the chat box. We can keep you in mind here. Okay, with that said, let's go to this next question here. Who do you recommend a small business work with when they're just starting out in digital marketing and or PR? There are so many agencies, and with a small budget, it's hard to know what option is right.
Okay, so this is also a big one. This is something that I deal with this a lot, especially when like trying to figure out what I want to charge and like what I want to offer. Because I initially started with like, I'm going to be for all size businesses. And it's like, that's not realistic. So I honestly do think that if you are a brand new business and you don't really have the budget for PR yet, I think it's okay to kind of DIY some of it. I think long term, you probably want someone sort of handling it for you, but there are things that you can do on your own if you just can't really quite budget it yet. I recommend, one of my favorite tricks is there is a Facebook group, and everyone in here can use this. If you have Facebook and you search through groups for podcasts, you can find there are several groups on Facebook that are dedicated solely to matching potential podcast guests with people who have podcasts. And I have gotten on a couple of podcasts through that. I've gotten clients on podcasts through those groups. And all you have to do is scroll through the posts, and there will be people in there often every single day saying, I have a podcast about this. Here's the link to it. I'm looking for a guest who can talk about these things. There are things there's something in there for literally everyone. So, that's something that you could do for free. You don't need necessarily to hire someone to do that for you. It's nice to have someone take the time and work off of your hands so that you can focus on other stuff. But if you don't have a budget yet, that's a super easy thing you can do. You can also reach out to some of your favorite podcasts. But yeah, I mean, that's just low hanging fruit, super easy, and a really good way to get visibility, to get someone else promoting your business too. So that's kind of my first little tip. I think it's just a super easy thing to do. And then also when you're looking, if you are at a point where you're looking for someone to sort of take some of the marketing and PR stuff off of your hands, I would look specifically for someone who works with small businesses. The thing that I think is nice if you are looking to hire someone, any sort of vendor for your small business, is the good ones, the good vendors who work with small businesses have niched down, and they have offerings that are maybe their whole business. I think ideally their whole business is devoted to serving small businesses, or even more specifically, women-run small businesses or women-run small businesses in your industry. So there are definitely people out there who are specifically trying to help you at a budget that you can afford. I know once I figured out exactly who I wanted to serve and who I'm for, that I'm for small businesses, and that I love working with women who are solopreneurs, who it's just them and their dream. So I sat down and crafted packages that are specifically for them, that I know will get them results, and will get them a lot for their budget and that fit their budget. So there are people out there specifically for you, and I think it's important to look for them. And I find even looking for, I use different tools in my business to project management tools, and I use a scheduler for my Instagram. And when I do those things, I look for services that are for small businesses. A lot of them have a solopreneur level plan. So, there's something out there like that in every industry. And so just know there are people out there for you. You might want to Google small business along with whatever it is you're looking for, but they're definitely there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So we have someone on the call who, Marcella, just started her 1 month ago. She launched her business. So I just want to say congratulations to you. And
congratulations.
Did you want to hop off of mute and maybe ask Candace some questions on your own?
Yes, actually, thank you for everything you've been sharing, because it's so helpful, and obviously the timing works perfectly for me. So no surprise, I'm here, right?
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you is the thing that I am trying to work at now is to really assert my authority. I love the suggestion of going on podcasts. So I'm about to start preparing, a pitch to that. But how do you specifically, what would be, in your opinion, from your PR perspective, the best way to assert that expertise so that it's visible. I'm mainly present on Instagram, and I have a basic website. I'm a femininity coach. I help working women embrace their femininity, and through that gain confidence and upgrade their life. So I feel like what I have has tremendous value, but I need to make sure that in all these platforms, my expertise comes through. And being new, although I have so many years of corporate experience working for multinationals in many countries, I speak 5 languages, like I could back up my stuff, but people have a few seconds to see if they want to work with me or not. And I wonder if you had any tips for that.
Totally. Well, first of all, I really love your Instagram feed. You have really nice branding. I was checking it out yesterday. I use Instagram as my primary marketing tool also. It's where I hang out the most. It's where I think that it'll be the same for both of us. It's kind of where my soulmate clients hang out. And if you're working with, I think with your audience, with your target audience, it'll be the same. So I think you know that you have a ton of expertise. I think a big way to build that up, and what I've found for myself too, is to start sharing that knowledge on Instagram. So I kind of crafted, I think video is a huge way to do that. If you're comfortable on video, use your Insta stories, go live on Instagram, use Instagram Reels, I think is a good way to get started because it's only 15 seconds. I've been, experimenting with those. You can use IGTV. There are a ton of ways to use video on there. But I think just start coming up with this is what I do, come up with 3 to 5 tips that you can share with women. Just start coming up with different content ideas. Because once you build up that kind of bank of content, that's something that podcasters and people with YouTube channels and writers at websites, they're going to see that. And I had a girl reach out to me this week because she's a really cool business owner, and she had been following me on Instagram for a little while. She found me through my Instagram content, and she was like, I feel like we'd get along. I see your personality. I think we would have good chemistry. Do you want to come on my podcast? So if you start building that up, just start, even if it's only for 30 seconds, pop in your Instagram stories and share some tips. Do a quick IGTV or it don't have to be long. It can be a 5-minute video. It can be a 30-second video. And then also another thing that is take, for my Instagram captions, make them kind of like a little mini blog. I'll share, rather than just writing one sentence, I'll share kind of, again, 3 to 5 tips, or I'll share kind of a personal story about why I do what I do, or like a client win, anything like that. And then it's kind of like a mini blog. And what you can do is take that and then port it over to your website and just kind of dress it up a little bit more. And then suddenly it's a real blog that you didn't have to sit down and write from scratch. I share those on Pinterest to get even more traffic. You can repurpose this content. You can take your videos and turn them into a blog. It's really good for SEO. So I think just start building that up. Just start building up your content. You have really good branding on your Instagram already, and you have the expertise. So just start sharing it with people. And I could talk to you forever about that. That's like my area. Content is like my absolute favorite part of what I do. And make sure you do some good hashtag research too. Try different hashtags, find other women who are in your industry, see what hashtags they're using, experiment with those, figure out, find some women on Instagram who are your dream clients and see what hashtags they're using, grab some of those, and just try different ones out, mix it up on your posts and see what works. If you have a business account, you'll be able to kind of see the insights on those. yeah, but I mean, Instagram has been my key tool for building that kind of authority, and showing up on video has been one of the best ways for me to do that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's
Totally.
extremely helpful because the platform is there, but there's all these possibilities, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I use for what, when, and how? But with what you showed me, I feel that I can now use some of those tips as sort of buckets, so that when the inspiration comes in, I don't have to create the video right away.
Totally.
I can put it in that bucket and then go and produce it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Love that. Thank you so much.
I use Trello. I don't know if you've heard Trello. I use Trello, just a free plan, and I keep all of my content ideas in there. When I have like just a little snippet of an idea, I'll throw it on my Trello board of Instagram ideas. I have one for video ideas, just so I can keep track of them, and then I go back and flesh it out later. Yeah, there's so much that you can do with it, honestly. I think, and don't get overwhelmed and feel like you have to do like a million different things on Instagram at once. Like I started with one thing. I started with, all right, I'll get comfortable showing up on video in my stories, and I focused on that. And I just set a goal for myself. Like I'll get on video in my Instagram stories 3 times a week. And, I started getting more comfortable with it. And, so just, it's okay to start small. But that's a great way to build that authority.
Thanks again.
Yes, thank you, Marcela. Thank you for chiming in there. And I was definitely, I'm taking notes too, because I love everything that you're saying. And what I started working with Instagram years ago. And actually I'm in Argentina now. And when I first moved back to Argentina in 2012, not many people were using Instagram. And I was like, hey, everyone, you're gonna need to like go on Instagram soon. Like it was I was kind of like before the time coming down south. And now it's so beautiful, the just the community of small businesses that are supporting each other, especially now during COVID. And I love that you wrote hashtag research, because hashtag discovery is like, Marcela, if you just put like you're from Chile? Yes. I've been to Santiago and Valparaiso. I'm sending so much love to Chile.
Yeah.
I feel like you can get lost in doing hashtag discovery, but then you can find so many gems, because then you realize, okay, if you have, I don't know, working women, that probably has 1 million, people following that hashtag. Then Marcela, how do you make it your own? And then you can start to, like Candace said, find your, what did you say? I love this, your soulmate.
Soulmate clients. Yeah.
Yes. What your
for.
soulmate clients are using, and then figure out how to fit that trend while being your own self. I love that you're giving us all of these.
Yeah. And try also to use a mix of hashtags with like different size number of followers. Cause if you're only going for hashtags with like millions of mentions in them, Instagram will tell you how many people use a hashtag when you are picking your hashtags. Then it'll be really hard to get seen. But if you go for ones that have like maybe 100,000 or 500,000 mentions or 20,000, it's a little bit easier for you to become one of the top posts. Just use like a range of, like I use some of the big ones and then some of the smaller ones, and that's kind of been my sweet spot. Also know that if you put a video on Instagram, it comes up way bigger than photos in the explore page when people are just kind of searching through stuff. So it's easier for them to find you. I like talking about Instagram. There's just so much to do on there.
There's so much to do, and they're always changing everything all the time. Same with Facebook. So I feel like, it's a beast feeding its own self,
And use it. I forgot to say this earlier. Use it as a networking tool. Like, just use it to meet other women business owners and meet your potential clients, and definitely network with other women business owners, and share their stuff. And often they'll share your stuff back. You build friendships out of it. You can support each other. That's been huge for me, building just a good solid community too. So they're not just followers, they're
so
your community.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious, based on that, with Instagram being sort of like our main platform now, what does the 2.0 or I guess 3.0 media kit looks like this day then? Because I know when you were giving me the advice, you suggested all these different videos and then complement with the right hashtags and everything, but there must be still like at least like a core that you should focus on, so that if anybody says, can you send me something about you, you can even store it in your highlights, but to have that basic core media kit.
Totally. So one of the big things that I do for clients is I'll write them a bio. I'll write a bio about them. I'll like design it and make it look nice, and it's got their picture on it, it's got their links, and it has kind of their story and what they do and who they help and why. So I think that's an important piece that you can just have in your pocket to send to people. It's something that when you go on a podcast, it's something that you need anytime someone really asks about you. You can include it in proposals. You can use it on your about page of your website. So that's part of it. And then also, I think it's important to have just kind of like a write-up of what you offer, exactly what you do, just like a little bit more specific information about your business. And then I would include kind of testimonials in that. I think that's important, that kind of social proof. And then if it's someone who's wanting to write something about your business, like a journalist, they can kind of use some of those quotes from your bio and from testimonials to kind of write this piece about you. And then if you have relevant links to like your new product or something, you could include that on there. And this is something that I would send via email. It's kind of called an electronic press kit nowadays, because we're not sending hard copies of things to people so much anymore. But that's kind of how I would approach it. Kind of put an email together with those things. Have your PDF that's got your bio and kind of just information about what you offer and those testimonials. And then honestly, if I wanted to take it one step further, I would even record a quick video that I could use anytime I have to send something like that out. That's just kind of introducing yourself, showing your personality. Or you could just include a video that you already have that kind of just shows a good representation of what your content is like. I think it's always a good idea to have a video that you share like to Instagram or wherever, just share, every so often as your audience grows, that kind of reintroduces yourself to these new followers. So if you had something like that, you could include that in your electronic kit. You can also Google electronic press kit and get like ideas of what different people put into them. But that's how I would do it nowadays.
No, I love that it all fits with the whole content creation for Instagram on a daily basis. It's just nice to know what those core pillars are so that you make sure you have them, because what I've learned in this space is that the online space is so fascinating that things can look like everything is too much and you don't know where you are, but from one day to the next, this huge opportunity can come through and you just need to be ready. So if I'm going to be doing videos, I might as well have that one ready.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, as you write content and create video content, it's so important to repurpose that stuff in different places, in different ways. It's not you write something once or record something once and then you never use it again. You don't have to be writing new content every single day. You can kind of recycle that stuff, use it as a blog post, use it as an Instagram post, record it as a video. One thing that I love to do is go in Canva. I live in Canva. I use it all the time. And just like take a quote from one of my blogs or from a video that people kind of identified with and turn it into just like a cute little graphic for an Instagram post. And then all of a sudden it's a new post from the same exact content. So reuse stuff every way you can. You're going to hit different people with it every time. So, yeah.
I love that. And I want to say one more thing, because as Marcela was saying that you have so much experience, not with, you just started your awesome business a year ago, but beyond that, you have so much experience and other things. And I would see if maybe you could, grab from your roster some testimonials that, like how Candace was saying, do you have any transferable skills? Like, maybe you were able to write some cool things for people you worked with before, or your presence, or anything that they can do to speak to how awesome you are and the work that you do. And then also, because I wear a video producer hat, you speak 5 languages, you said. Make sure you have your closed captions in different languages so you get more people who can understand your content. Because as I'm in Argentina, I realize there's so much great content that is not in Spanish. So when I have to try to, say, oh my gosh, I just discovered this. Oh, I got to go through, how do I translate all of that? So actually with some of the videos that I'm producing now, I'm automatically having them in English and in Spanish. And if you do more languages, wow, imagine that.
What's your handle, Mariela? I got to follow you.
I'll write it to you in the chat box so that you can, I'd love to connect with you as well. But yes, especially now that the world is so big, but also it's getting smaller because we're all in this digital space. I find that language is so interesting as far as, either working in marketing or receiving, you as a consumer, or you as working as a PR or marketer, and just either being very concise or being so versatile so that you can diversify your clientele. I know that both of you can speak to that because you're shaking your heads. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Great. Okay, so let's move on to this next question. We've got about 7 minutes left, so I do want to try to touch on this next question. And then for anyone who's on the call now who wasn't able to speak, now's your time to shine as well. So feel free to write in the chat box, or you can take yourselves off of mute as well. So are there any basic steps to rebrand or advance, modernize an existing brand?
For this, I would definitely recommend finding someone who can work with you on it. Again, there are tons of people out there, experts in branding, who work specifically with small business. That's something that I do. Little plug. I help people get their branding on point and help them figure out and develop a brand that will speak to their soulmate customers, is what I like to call them. I do it from the copy side. So I help them figure out, what's your brand voice? What's your content going to look like? How are you going to, I do the PR side of it. I help them kind of, I do like a whole website copy revamp, all of that stuff. You can also find, you're going to need the visuals. So you can find like an actual web designer who will do the design of your website for you, or a graphic designer who can help you with those things. I do think it's important. I think that's something that it's really hard to DIY, where you can do some of the PR and content stuff DIY. With branding, it's a little bit harder unless you like already have those skills. But yeah, certainly I would at the very least kind of do some research on branding. And then honestly, a huge part of this, and something that you can kind of do on your own, but certainly also, like, this is something I do for people, is do some discovery around, first of all, why are you looking to rebrand? What goals are you not hitting, and why do you think you're not reaching those goals? And what kind of things are your dream clients interested in? What do they identify with? What do they not like about your brand? Because those are definitely questions that you have to answer. With branding, it's not so much just what looks pretty to you, it's what's going to speak to the client, to the potential client. Our brands are kind of for them. And the way that I approach it, I think that it's really powerful to take your personality and kind of turn that into your brand, which goes a little bit against like making it all about the client. I kind of operate in this sweet spot of, I'm going to put my real personality out there. I'm going to develop a brand that really gets at who I am and what I care about and what I do, and the right people will identify with that. that might be a little bit confusing, but I mean, that's what I've done, and that's what has worked for me, and that's what I help my clients do. And, you know, it's really worked. I will say, when I first started kind of developing my own brand for my business, I went really far down the path with this brand that I had developed. I had gotten like too wrapped up in trying to figure out what are other women who do what I do doing with their brand? What do their brands look like? And I kind of tried to like match it a little bit. And I ended up with this brand that was very like pastel and millennial, you know, like millennial pink-ish and soft spoken. And that's fine if that's your personality, but it's not mine. And it's not, I don't wear those colors. It's not something that I'm much more inspired by like the 60s and like rock and roll and like edgier stuff. And so I was like, I don't identify with this at all. It doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel authentic. And I noticed it when I went to a branding photographer, and she started telling me what she was seeing in the brand. And I was like, I don't identify with any of that. So I kind of like scrapped it all, started over. I even renamed my business. Like, I realized that the name of my business didn't even feel right. I got rid of all the colors, all the fonts, everything, the messaging, all of it. And I started over, and I was just like, who am I? What's important to me? What kind of people do I want to work with, and what's important to them? And I kind of turned those things into a brand. And what has happened is I'm not stressed about my brand. I don't feel like I have to pretend to embody it. And I'm getting women coming to me through Instagram who are seeing what I'm putting out there. They see my vibe, my brand, my content, all of that. And it's just authentic. And they're saying like, wow, I really identify with what you're doing. And like, they are my dream clients. I'm getting the kind of women that I actually want to work with. So, you know, branding can be tricky, but I think my biggest tip there is to kind of like forget about what your competitors are doing and just try to like fully put yourself out there. And I do recommend working with someone on branding, because it can be really hard to do that for yourself.
Absolutely. And I love that you're highlighting authenticity, because with that comes integrity, and it automatically diversifies everything versus like, you know, everything looking the same like it was, you know, maybe even last year we can say, or, you know, for sure 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So, you know, you have more inclusion, you have more people that look like you, or that look like the kind of person that you have inside, but you can't share outside, and you gravitate towards that. I love that you're flagging that, because, you know, it's hopefully will go down in history, you know, as there was once a time when, you know, everyone looked the same on billboards and in magazines, you know, and the standard of beauty was like this. And now we see all of these different beautiful colors and different shapes and different cultures. And I really think it's our job to do that, right? If we are the ones hearing our voice, and we're creating brands to honor that, so that we do, you know, mix it up a little bit. So thank you for highlighting that, Candace.
Important. I think it's really important to put that out there, because like I started realizing a while ago, like, you know, I'm Latina, I'm half Mexican, and I realized, like, looking through Instagram, like, wow, it's really hard to find other Latina business owners. You know, I don't know, I had like a really hard time with it. And so I often have to search specifically like Latina specific hashtags to find some of that diversity, and to find other people, even outside of Latinas, just other people who are, you know, just to find more diversity in it. So I think that it's important to make that part of your brand if that's something that is important to you. Like, I've had people reach out to me like, oh, I'm a Latina business owner too, let's connect. I don't know. I think it's really boring when things are not in any way diverse. And, you know, that's kind of the brand that I had initially created, trying to match everybody else, because it wasn't everybody else. It was the top accounts that show up when you search, and I was trying to match them, and they were kind of all the same. But now that I've kind of created something that speaks more to who I actually am and what's actually important to me, like I have a much more diverse community around me now. And I think that's just so, so important. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful way to end this chat by speaking, ending on being true to yourself, creating diversity by being authentic and having that integrity. So thank you so much, Candace, for speaking with us for this past hour. Thank you for everyone who's joined us live. And then can you just take us out with some food for thought? And then how can we find you on socials and connect with you after this chat ends?
Totally. Well, food for thought. Honestly, my big thing that I kind of hammer on is kind of the same as what PowerToFly talks about. I'm all about supporting and lifting up your fellow women business owners. So, just remember that if you see another woman doing the same thing that you're doing, she's not competition. I like the quote, she's not your competition, she's your sister. Like, lift each other up. Don't feel like you have to compete with everybody. There's enough dream clients out there for everybody. Share each other's stuff, support each other, send each other messages, collaborate on things. You can go live together, just support each other. You will gain so much more from that than you could ever possibly lose. That's kind of what my business is all about. Just support other boss babes. And yeah, you can find me. My website is moonhoneymedia.com. My Instagram handle is @moonhoneymedia. That's the place where I am active most often. I'm there every day. Stuff. Please feel free to DM me, reach out. I would love to connect. And yes, for my clients, I do full content management. I do the PR management. I help them with branding. I do website revamps, and I just help them find and attract their soulmate clients. And I make things simple and easy and not overwhelming. And yeah, it's specifically for women small business owners, women solopreneurs. So yeah, I would love to have you join me on Instagram. I'd love to connect and chat and be friends and all of that. So yeah, I would love to hear from you over there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Candace. And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day.